Hi, welcome to TheStoryCow. Don't forget to like and subscribe and enjoy the video.
My sister took my fiance after meeting him once. My parents supported them. So I moved away and cut contact. Years later, they tracked me down, asked for money, and kept showing up until I got a restraining order. I, 28 female, need to get this off my chest because I've been carrying this for 3 years now. My family consists of my parents and my younger sister, Zoe, 26 female. Growing up, Zoe was always the favorite child. She was the one who got the birthday parties, the new clothes, and all the attention. I learned early on to stay quiet and not ask for much. When I was 12 and Zoe was 10, I won the regional math competition for our district. I came home with a trophy and certificate, excited to show my parents. My dad barely looked up from his newspaper when I told him. My mom just nodded and said, "That's nice." The same day, Zoe had performed in a small school assembly where she forgot half her lines and stumbled through her poem. My parents spent the entire evening praising her performance and telling her how talented she was. They called our grandparents to tell them about Zoe's poetry recital. Nobody mentioned my competition win. This pattern continued throughout our childhood. When I made honor roll, they would focus on Zoe's B+ in art class. When I got accepted to a good college with a partial scholarship, they threw a party for Zoe getting her driver's license the same week. I stopped expecting recognition and just focused on my studies. In college, I studied computer science and graduated with honors. I got a good job at a tech company in our hometown. Zoe dropped out after 2 years and moved back home. My parents never criticized her decision. They said she was finding herself and that not everyone was meant for academics. When I bought my first car with my own money, they told me I should have consulted them first. When Zoe crashed their car twice in 1 month, they bought her a new one. 2 years ago, I met Alex, 29 male, at a work conference. He was a software engineer from another company. We started dating and things got serious quickly. Alex was the first person who really listened to me and treated me like I mattered. After 8 months, he proposed. I was over the moon and couldn't wait to share the news with my family. When I told my parents about the engagement, they seemed happy but not overly excited. My mom asked basic questions about the wedding plans and when they would meet him. My dad congratulated me and went back to watching TV. Zoe was visiting that day and she hugged me and said she was excited to meet my fiance. I thought maybe this time would be different. I arranged for Alex to meet my family at Sunday dinner 2 weeks later. I had told him about the family dynamics, but he said he was sure they would love him once they got to know him. Alex is charming and good-looking. He has a great sense of humor and can talk to anyone about anything. The dinner started normally. Alex brought flowers for my mom and shook hands with my dad. He was polite and engaging. Then Zoe came downstairs. She had clearly spent extra time getting ready. Her hair was perfect and she wore a dress I had never seen before. She immediately started asking Alex questions about his work and his hobbies. She laughed at everything he said and found excuses to touch his arm when she talked. I watched Alex's face change throughout the evening. He started paying more attention to Zoe's stories than mine. When Zoe mentioned she was thinking about going back to school for graphic design, Alex got excited and started talking about design principles and color theory. I didn't know he was interested in those things. Zoe hung on every word. My parents were delighted with how well Alex and Zoe were getting along. My mom kept commenting on how nice it was to see Zoe so animated and engaged. My dad actually put down his phone to listen to their conversation. I sat at the same table but felt like I wasn't there. After dinner, Zoe offered to show Alex the garden while I helped my mom with dishes. Through the kitchen window, I could see them walking around the backyard. Zoe was doing most of the talking, and Alex was nodding and laughing. They stayed out there for almost an hour. When I asked my mom what she thought of Alex, she said he seemed very nice and that he and Zoe had really hit it off. She mentioned how good it was to see Zoe excited about something again. She didn't ask what I thought about how the evening went. Over the next few weeks, Alex started acting different. He would check his phone more often and sometimes smile at messages before quickly putting his phone away. When I asked about wedding venues, he said we should wait a bit longer to make sure we were ready. He started working late more often and couldn't meet my family for dinners I had planned. One evening, Alex came to my apartment and sat me down. He looked uncomfortable and couldn't meet my eyes. He said he had something difficult to tell me. He said he had been talking to Zoe and that they had developed feelings for each other. He said it wasn't planned and that he felt terrible about it. He said Zoe understood him in a way that was different and that he thought we should call off the engagement. I asked him how long this had been going on. He said they had been texting since the dinner and had met for coffee a few times. He said nothing physical had happened, but that he couldn't ignore his feelings. He said he hoped I could understand and that he wanted to stay friends. He took off the ring and left it on my coffee table. He hugged me and left. I sat in my apartment for 2 hours staring at the ring. I called my mom and told her what happened. I expected her to be shocked or angry on my behalf. Instead, she sighed and said, "These things happen sometimes." She said Alex was a good man for being honest about his feelings, instead of cheating. She said I would find someone else and that I should try to be happy for Zoe if she found love. I asked her if she knew this was happening. She said Zoe had mentioned that she and Alex were talking, but that she didn't know it was serious. She said Zoe had been so much happier lately and that she deserved to have good things happen to her. She said Zoe had struggled so much after dropping out of college and that maybe this was her chance to get back on track. I hung up and called Zoe directly. She picked up on the first ring and started talking immediately. She said she was sorry and that she never meant for this to happen. She said Alex had reached out to her first after the dinner and that they just connected. She said she tried to fight her feelings but couldn't. She said she hoped I could forgive her and that we could still be sisters. I asked her why she thought it was okay to pursue my fiancé. She said love doesn't follow rules and that she couldn't help who she had feelings for. She said Alex had told her that he realized we weren't right for each other and that he would have broken up with me anyway. She said, at least this way. I found out before the wedding instead of after. 3 weeks later, my mom called to tell me that Alex and Zoe were officially dating. She said they seemed very happy together and that Alex had been spending a lot of time at the house. She said my dad really liked him and that they had been working on a project in the garage together. She asked if I wanted to come to dinner soon to see how everyone was doing. I told her I needed time to process everything. She said she understood, but that I shouldn't let this affect my relationship with the family. She said Zoe felt terrible about how things happened and that she missed me. She said it would mean a lot to Zoe if I could show that I supported her happiness. I realized that nothing was going to change. My parents would always choose Zoe over me. They would always find ways to justify her actions and minimize my pain. I decided I was done trying to be part of a family that didn't want me. I stopped answering their calls and didn't respond to their texts. I blocked Alex and Zoe on all social media. I focused on my work and started saving money to move away. 6 months later, I got a job offer in a different state. I took it without telling my family. I packed my things and left town. I didn't leave a forwarding address. That was 2 years ago. I've built a new life here. I got promoted twice and bought a house. I started learning photography as a hobby, and I'm actually pretty good at it. I made new friends and joined a hiking group. I met someone new 6 months ago, and we're taking things slow, but it's going well. Last week, my cousin Lisa, 32 female, called me. She still lives in my hometown, and we've stayed in touch. She told me some interesting news about my family. Apparently, Alex and Zoe broke up 8 months ago. Alex lost his job during company layoffs and couldn't find work in the same field. He started drinking more and became bitter about his situation. Zoe got tired of supporting him and dealing with his complaints. She broke up with him and moved back in with my parents. Lisa said Zoe has been miserable since the breakup. She's not working and spends most of her time in her room. My parents have been arguing more because my dad is frustrated with having Zoe back home with no plans. Alex apparently tried to contact me through mutual friends to apologize, but I haven't responded. Lisa also told me that my parents have been asking about me. They found out about my promotions and my house through mutual acquaintances. My mom has been telling people how proud she is of me and how successful I've become. She's been asking Lisa for my contact information. Yesterday, my mom found my work email address and sent me a long message. She said she missed me and wanted to talk. She said she realized she had made mistakes and that she wanted to make things right. She said the family wasn't the same without me and that she hoped I could forgive them. She said Zoe was going through a hard time and could use my support as her sister. I haven't responded to the email. Part of me wants to tell them exactly what I think about their sudden change of heart, but another part of me wants to just delete the message and pretend I never saw it. I've worked hard to build a life without them, and I don't know if I want to open that door again. I don't know what to do. Should I respond to my mom's email? Should I give them a chance to apologize? Or should I continue with the life I've built without them? Update 1. I got a lot of helpful responses to my original post. Most people told me to stay away from my family and that they only wanted me back because I was successful now. Others said I should at least hear them out. I decided to think about it for a few weeks before making any decisions. Last week, my cousin Lisa called me again with more information. She said my mom had been asking everyone in our extended family for my phone number and address. She was telling people that there had been a misunderstanding and that she needed to reach me to clear things up. Lisa said, my mom was making it sound like I had overreacted to a small family disagreement. Lisa also told me that my mom had been posting about me on social media. She was sharing old photos of us together and writing captions about how much she missed her daughter. She was getting sympathy from friends and neighbors who didn't know the real story. People were commenting that they hoped we could work things out and that family was the most important thing. This made me angry. My mom was rewriting history and making herself look like the victim. She was getting attention and sympathy for missing me while completely ignoring why I left in the first place. I decided I needed to set the record straight. I created a new email address and sent my mom a response. I told her I had received her message and that I wanted to be clear about a few things. I explained that I didn't leave because of a misunderstanding. I left because my parents had consistently chosen Zoe over me my entire life, and because they supported her stealing my fiancé. I told her that their sudden interest in me had nothing to do with missing me, and everything to do with the fact that I was successful while Zoe was struggling. I told her that if she really wanted to make amends, she needed to acknowledge what actually happened instead of pretending it was all a big misunderstanding. I said I wasn't interested in being their backup daughter when their favorite child disappointed them. I told her to stop posting about me on social media and to stop telling people we had a minor disagreement. My mom responded within an hour. Her email was much different than the first one. She was defensive and angry. She said I was being unfair and that I was remembering things wrong. She said every parent has different relationships with their children, and that didn't mean they loved one child more than the other. She said what happened with Alex and Zoe was unfortunate, but that I was acting like a child by running away instead of working through it as a family. She said Zoe had been devastated when I left and that she had been asking about me constantly. She said Zoe wanted to apologize and explain her side of the story. She said I was being selfish by refusing to forgive my sister when she was going through such a difficult time. She said the family needed me right now and that I was abandoning them when they needed support. The email made me realize that my mom still didn't understand what she had done wrong. She was still making excuses and trying to guilt me into coming back. She was still more concerned about Zoe's feelings than mine. Nothing had actually changed except that now I was the successful one and Zoe was the one struggling. I forwarded the email to Lisa and asked for her honest opinion. Lisa called me immediately. She said my mom's response proved that she hadn't learned anything. She said my mom was still treating me like I existed, to serve the family's needs instead of having my own feelings and boundaries. Lisa also told me something else that my mom hadn't mentioned. Apparently, my dad had been laid off from his job 3 months ago. He was having trouble finding new work because he was older and his skills were outdated. Money was getting tight with both my dad and Zoe unemployed. Lisa suspected that my mom's sudden interest in reconnecting had something to do with the fact that I was doing well financially. This information made everything click into place. My parents weren't reaching out because they missed me or because they realized they had treated me poorly. They were reaching out because they needed something from me. They probably hoped I would help support the family or let Zoe move in with me or something similar. I decided to test this theory. I sent my mom another email. I told her that I appreciated her reaching out, but that I wasn't ready to rebuild our relationship. I said I needed time to process everything and that I would contact her when I was ready to talk. I made no mention of visiting or helping with anything. 2 days later, I got an email from Zoe. She said she had gotten my email address from mom and that she needed to talk to me. She said she knew I was angry with her, but that she hoped I could put that aside because she really needed my help. She said she was going through the worst time of her life and that she didn't have anyone else to turn to. She said she was sorry about what happened with Alex and that she realized she had made a mistake. She said Alex had turned out to be completely different than she thought and that the relationship had been a disaster. She said she understood now why I was upset and that she wanted to make it up to me. Then she got to the real reason for her email. She said she was thinking about moving to my city to get a fresh start. She said she had looked into jobs and apartments, but everything was expensive. She asked if she could stay with me for a few months while she got on her feet. She said it would be a good chance for us to rebuild our relationship and that she promised she wouldn't be any trouble. I stared at the email for a long time. The audacity was incredible. She had stolen my fiance. My parents had supported her and now she wanted to move into my house and start over in my city. She wanted me to help her escape the consequences of her own actions. I showed the email to my boyfriend Marcus, 31 male. I had told him about my family situation early in our relationship. He read the email and shook his head. He said it was obvious that my family only wanted me back because they needed something from me. He said I should be proud of myself for building a life without their support and that I shouldn't let them take advantage of my success. I wrote back to Zoe and told her that I wouldn't be able to help her with housing. I said I hoped she could figure out her situation, but that I wasn't the right person to ask for help. I said I needed to focus on my own life and that I wished her the best. Zoe responded immediately. She said she couldn't believe I was being so cold and selfish. She said family was supposed to help each other and that she would do the same for me if our situations were reversed. She said I was holding a grudge over something that happened years ago and that I needed to grow up and move on. She said mom and dad were really struggling right now and that I was the only one in the family who was doing well. She said it wasn't fair for me to have a nice house and a good job while they were all suffering. She said I owed it to the family to help since they had supported me growing up. The email confirmed everything I suspected. They didn't want me back because they loved me or missed me. They wanted me back because I was successful and they thought I owe them something. They still didn't think they had done anything wrong, and they expected me to forget the past and take care of them now. I didn't respond to Zoe's email. Instead, I blocked her email address and my mom's email address. I told Lisa that I didn't want to hear any more updates about my family unless it was an emergency. I changed my work email and told my boss that if anyone from my hometown contacted the office looking for me, they should be told I no longer work there. I realized that cutting contact had been the right decision the first time. My family hadn't changed. They were still the same people who had ignored me my whole life and supported Zoe when she stole my fiance. The only difference now was that they thought they could use my success to solve their problems. Update 2: things had been quiet for about 6 weeks after I blocked my mom and Zoe's email addresses. I thought maybe they had finally gotten the message that I wasn't going to help them. I was wrong. Last month, my cousin Lisa called me with some concerning news. She said my mom had been driving around town asking people if they knew how to contact me. She had gone to my old workplace and tried to get my forwarding address from HR. When they wouldn't give her the information, she started crying in the lobby and telling anyone who would listen that her daughter had disappeared and she was worried about my safety. Lisa said my mom was telling people that I had cut off all contact after a family disagreement and that she was afraid something bad had happened to me. She was asking if anyone had friends or relatives in my new city who might know where I was. She was making it sound like I was missing instead of purposely avoiding contact. This worried me because my mom was involving other people and potentially giving out information about where I lived. I asked Lisa to please not give anyone my contact information, no matter what story my mom told. Lisa promised she wouldn't share anything, but she said other family members might not be as careful. 2 weeks later, I got a Facebook friend request from someone I didn't recognize. The profile had no photos and very little information. I ignored the request, but more kept coming from different fake accounts. I realized someone was trying to find me on social media, so I made all my accounts private and changed my display name. Then last week, something happened that really scared me. I came home from work to find my landlord waiting for me in the parking lot. He said a woman had come to the office that morning claiming to be my mother. She said there was a family emergency and that she needed my apartment number so she could reach me. She was crying and seemed very upset. My landlord said he didn't give her my apartment number because that was against policy, but he offered to take a message. The woman said she would wait in the parking lot until I got home from work. My landlord said she had been there for about 3 hours before giving up and leaving. I asked him to describe the woman. Based on his description, it was definitely my mom. She had somehow found out where I lived and had driven 8 hours to my city to ambush me at my apartment. The thought of her watching my building and waiting for me made me feel sick. I called Lisa immediately. She said she had no idea my mom was planning to drive to my city. She said my mom had been acting increasingly desperate over the past few weeks. She had been calling family members and begging them to help her find me. She was telling people that she was afraid I was in some kind of trouble and that she needed to make sure I was okay. Lisa said my dad's unemployment benefits were running out and that my parents were getting behind on their mortgage payments. Zoe was still living at home and not contributing any money. The stress was affecting my mom's health, and she had started taking anxiety medication. Lisa thought my mom was having some kind of breakdown. I felt bad that my parents were struggling financially, but I also knew that wasn't my responsibility. They had made their choices when they supported Zoe over me. They couldn't expect me to solve their problems now, just because I was doing well. I decided I needed to take stronger action to protect myself. I contacted a lawyer and asked about getting a restraining order. The lawyer said, showing up at my apartment building might not be enough for a restraining order, but that I should document everything in case the behavior escalated. He advised me to contact the police if my mom showed up again. I also talked to my landlord about the situation. I explained that I had cut off contact with my family for personal reasons, and that I didn't want them to have any information about me. He understood and said he would not give out any information about me to anyone, even if they claimed to be family. 3 days after my mom's visit, I got a call at work from our receptionist. She said a woman was in the lobby asking to speak with me. She said the woman claimed to be my mother and that there was a family emergency. I told the receptionist to tell the woman that I was not available and to ask her to leave. If she refused to leave, she should call security. 10 minutes later, the receptionist called back. She said the woman had become upset when told I wasn't available. She started crying and saying that she just needed 5 minutes to talk to her daughter. Security had to escort her out of the building. She left a letter addressed to me with the receptionist. I was shaking when I went downstairs to get the letter. The receptionist said the woman seemed desperate, but not dangerous. She said security would be aware of the situation in case the woman came back. I took the letter and went back to my office to read it. The letter was handwritten and several pages long. My mom wrote that she was sorry for showing up at my work, but that she didn't know how else to reach me. She said she understood that I was angry, but that she needed me to know how much the family was struggling. She said my dad was depressed about being unemployed and that Zoe was having panic attacks about her future. She wrote that she knew she had made mistakes as a mother, but that she was trying to learn and do better. She said she would do anything to have me back in her life and that she missed me every day. She said the family felt incomplete without me and that she realized now how important I was to all of them. Then the letter took a different tone. She wrote that she knew I was successful and that she was proud of me for doing so well. She said it hurt her to know that I had a nice life while my family was falling apart. She said she understood that I didn't owe them anything, but that she hoped I would find it in my heart to help them during this difficult time. She asked if I could loan them some money to help with the mortgage payments. She said it would just be temporary until my dad found a new job. She also asked if there were any job opportunities at my company that might be suitable for Zoe. She said Zoe was finally ready to get serious about her career and that a fresh start in a new city might be exactly what she needed. The letter ended with my mom saying that she would keep trying to reach me until I agreed to talk to her. She said she wasn't going to give up on our relationship and that she would do whatever it took to bring me home. She said family was forever and that we needed to work through our problems together. Reading the letter made me realize that my mom's visit wasn't about missing me or wanting to rebuild our relationship. It was about money and getting me to help solve their problems. Even her apology was just a setup to ask for financial help and a job for Zoe. She was treating me like a resource instead of a daughter. I showed the letter to Marcus. He said it was manipulative and that my mom was trying to guilt me into helping by talking about the family struggles. He said the fact that she ended the letter by threatening to keep bothering me until I responded showed that she didn't respect my boundaries at all. I made copies of the letter and documented the dates and times of all my mom's contact attempts. I sent an email to my company's security department explaining the situation and asking them to ban my mother from the building. I also contacted the police non-emergency line to report the harassment and get advice on next steps. The police officer I spoke with said that while my mom's behavior was concerning, it didn't rise to the level of criminal harassment yet. He said I should continue documenting everything and call them if she showed up at my home or workplace again. He also suggested that I might want to send a formal cease and desist letter to make it clear that I wanted no contact. I decided to follow his advice. I had my lawyer draft a cease and desist letter explaining that I wanted no contact from my family and that any further attempts to contact me or visit my home or workplace would be considered harassment. The letter was sent to my parents' address by certified mail. I hoped this would finally make them understand that I was serious about not wanting them in my life. I had built something good without them, and I wasn't going to let them destroy it. Update 3. The cease and desist letter worked for about 2 weeks. Then everything escalated in ways I never expected. My cousin Lisa called me on a Tuesday morning. She said my mom had received the letter and had completely lost it. She drove to Lisa's house crying and saying that I was trying to destroy the family. She said I was being cruel and vindictive and that she didn't understand how I could be so heartless toward my own parents. Lisa said my mom was convinced that I had a legal team helping me and that I was planning to take some kind of legal action against the family. She was telling people that I was rich now and that I was using my money to hurt them. She was acting like I was the villain in the situation instead of someone who just wanted to be left alone. But that wasn't the worst part. Lisa said my mom had started calling my extended family members and telling them that I was refusing to help during a family crisis. She was asking my aunts and uncles and cousins to contact me on her behalf. She was giving out details about my dad's unemployment and their financial problems and making it sound like I was selfish for not helping. Some family members believed her story and started reaching out to me. I got messages from relatives I hadn't spoken to in years asking me to call home and help my parents. They didn't know the real reason I had cut contact, and they thought I was being petty over some minor disagreement. I had to explain the situation to several family members who contacted me. Some understood once they heard my side of the story. Others said that regardless of what happened in the past, I should help my parents because they were family. The whole thing was exhausting and embarrassing. Then things got worse. Lisa called me the following week with news that made my stomach drop. She said my mom and Zoe had been planning something together. They had been asking questions about my job and my boyfriend and my daily routine. Lisa thought they were planning to show up in my apartment again, possibly with other family members this time. I contacted my lawyer immediately. He said the cease and desist letter created a clear record that I had told them to stop contacting me. If they showed up at my home or workplace again, I would have grounds for a restraining order. He advised me to call the police immediately if they appeared. I also told Marcus what was happening. He said I should stay at his place for a few days until things calmed down. I packed a bag and moved some of my important documents to his apartment. I felt ridiculous having to hide from my own family, but I didn't want to deal with another confrontation. 3 days later, my landlord called me. He said 2 women had come to the apartment office asking about me again. When he told them he couldn't give out tenant information, they said they were going to wait in the parking lot until I came home. He said they were still there several hours later when he left work. I called the police and explained the situation. I told them about the cease and desist letter and that I was afraid my family members were going to keep harassing me. The officer said they would send someone to check the parking lot and ask the women to leave. The police called me back an hour later. They said they had spoken to 2 women in the parking lot who admitted to being my mother and sister. The women said there was a family emergency and that they needed to speak with me urgently. When the officer explained that I had requested no contact, my mom became very upset and started crying. The officer said my mom kept insisting that there was a misunderstanding and that if she could just talk to me for 5 minutes, everything would be resolved. She said I was her daughter and that she had a right to see me. The officer had to explain several times that I was an adult and that I had the right to choose who I wanted in my life. Finally, the women agreed to leave. The officer said they seemed to understand that they could be arrested for trespassing if they returned. He said I should call immediately if they showed up again because their behavior was becoming concerning. I thought that would be the end of it. But I was wrong again. The next day, Marcus got a call at his office. The receptionist said a woman was asking to speak with him about his girlfriend, Maya. She said it was urgent and that she was calling about a family matter. Marcus told them to take a message, but the woman refused to leave one. She said she would call back. The calls continued for 3 days. My mom had somehow found out where Marcus worked and was trying to get to me through him. Marcus's coworkers were getting annoyed with the constant calls. His boss asked him what was going on because the woman was being disruptive and claiming there was an emergency. Marcus had to explain to his boss that his girlfriend's arranged mother was harassing their office. It was embarrassing for both of us. Marcus told his receptionist to stop taking calls from the woman and to hang up if she called again. That weekend, we discovered that my mom had found Marcus's address too. We came back to his apartment to find a letter taped to his door. The letter was addressed to both of us and was written by my mom. She wrote that she was sorry for bothering us, but that she was desperate to talk to me. She said she understood that I was angry, but that cutting off all contact was extreme and hurtful. She said she had raised me better than to abandon my family when they needed me most. The letter said that my dad was getting sicker from the stress of being unemployed and that Zoe was having serious depression issues. She said the family was falling apart without me and that she didn't know what else to do. She begged me to at least send a message, letting them know I was okay and that I still cared about them. She also wrote that she knew Marcus was a good influence on me and that she hoped he would encourage me to do the right thing. She said she was sure that if he understood how much pain the family was in, he would help convince me to come home. Reading the letter made me realize that my mom was never going to stop. She was escalating her behavior instead of respecting my boundaries. She was now involving my boyfriend and his workplace. She was treating my request for no contact as a temporary tantrum instead of a serious decision. I made copies of all the letters and documented every incident. I went back to my lawyer and filed for a restraining order against both my mom and Zoe. The lawyer said I had enough evidence to show a pattern of harassment that was affecting my work and personal life. The restraining order was granted 2 weeks later. It prohibited my mom and Zoe from contacting me directly or indirectly, coming to my home or workplace, or having anyone else contact me on their behalf. It also covered Marcus's home and workplace since they had involved him in the harassment. Lisa called me after my family received the restraining order paperwork. She said my mom was devastated and couldn't understand how things had gotten so bad. She kept saying that she was just trying to reach her daughter and that she didn't deserve to be treated like a criminal. Lisa said my mom was telling people that I had turned into a completely different person and that my success had made me cold and heartless. She was acting like I was the one who had done something wrong by protecting myself from their harassment. But Lisa also told me something interesting. She said that after receiving the restraining order, my dad finally got angry with my mom and Zoe. He said their behavior was embarrassing and that they needed to leave me alone. He said they had brought this situation on themselves and that they couldn't blame me for wanting nothing to do with them. Apparently, my dad started looking for work more seriously after that. He got a job at a hardware store that paid much less than his previous job, but it was income. He told my mom and Zoe that they needed to find their own solutions instead of expecting me to rescue them. It's been 4 months since the restraining order was issued. I haven't heard from my family since then. Lisa says my mom still talks about me sometimes, but that she seems to have accepted that I'm not coming back. Zoe got a job at a restaurant and is slowly getting her life together. My dad is working and seems less depressed. I've been able to focus on my own life again. Marcus and I moved in together and we're talking about getting engaged. I got another promotion at work and I'm thinking about starting my own consulting business. I've been taking more photography classes and I'm planning to have a small showing of my work next month. Sometimes I wonder if I made the right choice by cutting off all contact with my family. But then I remember how they treated me my whole life and how they only wanted me back when they needed something from me. I remember how they supported Zoe when she stole my fiance and how they expected me to just get over it and move on. I built a good life without their support and I'm not going to let them take that away from me. I have people who care about me for who I am, not for what I can do for them. That's enough for me. The restraining order expires in 2 years. I hope by then my family will have learned to respect my decision and leave me alone. If not, I'll renew it. I'm done being the family member who exists to solve everyone else's problems while my own needs get ignored. I'm finally living for myself instead of trying to earn love from people who were never going to give it to me anyway. Now, let's move to the next story. Story 2. My dad chose his new wife over me. So, I moved in with my brother. When Dad came begging for me to return, I hit him with news that changed everything. I'm Emma, 17 female, and I've been grappling with a family situation that's been weighing on me for years. To give you some context, I live with my dad, 45 male, stepmom, Lena, 40 female, and stepsister Zoe, 16 female. My mom passed away when I was 10 after a long battle with cancer. Those years were tough on all of us, especially Dad. He threw himself into work and taking care of me, barely keeping it together. Looking back, I realize how much I relied on my older brother Alex, 22 male, during that time. He was 15 when Mom died, but he stepped up in ways I couldn't have imagined. He'd make me breakfast, help me with homework, and always knew how to make me laugh, even on the worst days. We developed this goofy, playful relationship that became our coping mechanism. Dad understood and even encouraged it, saying it reminded him of how he and Mom used to be. Dad met Lena about 2 years after Mom passed. She was a colleague at his law firm, recently divorced with a daughter close to my age. At first, I was cautiously optimistic. Dad seemed happier, and I thought maybe we could be a family again. But things moved fast. Too fast for my liking. Within 6 months, they were engaged, and suddenly, I was expected to embrace this new family dynamic. The wedding was a whirlwind. I remember standing there in my bridesmaid dress, feeling like I was watching a stranger's life unfold. Alex noticed how uncomfortable I was and spent the whole reception making silly faces at me from across the room, trying to cheer me up. That's when Lena first showed signs of disapproval towards our relationship. She pulled Alex aside and told him he needed to act more appropriately at a wedding. Living with Lena and Zoe was an adjustment, to say the least. Lena had a very different parenting style from what I was used to. She was strict with lots of rules about curfews, chores, and proper behavior. Zoe seemed to thrive under this structure, but I felt suffocated. I missed the warmth and spontaneity of our old family life. Alex was my lifeline during this transition. He'd come over often, usually with some ridiculous prank plan to make me laugh. Once he showed up in a full Superman costume, claiming he was there to rescue me from the evil stepmother. Dad thought it was hilarious, but Lena was furious. She said it was disrespectful and that Alex was undermining her authority. As the years went by, the tension between Lena and me grew. She constantly criticized my clothes, my friends, and especially my relationship with Alex. She'd make comments about how unhealthy it was for siblings to be so close and how I needed to grow up and stop relying on him so much. Dad tried to mediate, but he always seemed torn. He'd defend me to a point, but then back down when Lena pushed back. I could see the conflict in his eyes, and it hurt to think that he might choose his new wife over his kids. Things came to a head last week during our annual Labor Day barbecue. It's usually a big event with extended family and friends, a tradition Mom started years ago. This year, Alex had just moved back home after graduating college, and I was thrilled to have him around more. We were all by the pool, and I decided to sneak up on Alex and push him in. It's a game we've played a million times before. Alex is a good sport and always laughs it off. This time was no different. He came up, spluttering and laughing, then grabbed my ankle and pulled me in too. We were both cracking up, but Lena stormed over, face red with anger. She started yelling at Alex, saying he could have hurt me and that he was being irresponsible. I tried to explain that it was just a joke and that I had pushed him first, but she wouldn't listen. Then she turned on me, telling me I was too old for such childish behavior and that I needed to grow up. At this point, our entire extended family was watching the scene unfold. I was so embarrassed and angry that I just snapped. I told Lena to mind her own business and that she had no right to dictate how Alex and I interact. The silence that followed was deafening. I could see the shock on everyone's faces. I'd never spoken to Lena like that before. Dad finally stepped in and told everyone to calm down, but the damage was done. The barbecue ended early, with most of our relatives making awkward excuses to leave. Later that night, Dad came to my room to talk. He said he understood where I was coming from, but that I needed to apologize to Lena for causing a scene. I refused. I told Dad that Lena was the one who blew everything out of proportion and that I was tired of her trying to change my relationship with Alex. I reminded him of all the times Lena had criticized us, how she tried to impose rules on Alex even though he was an adult, and how she constantly made me feel like I wasn't good enough. I asked him why he never stood up for us, why he always seemed to take her side. Dad looked hurt and disappointed. He said I was being unfair, that Lena had done a lot for our family. He talked about how hard it had been for him after Mom died, how Lena had helped him put his life back together. He said I needed to try harder to make this blended family work, but I couldn't shake the feeling that in trying to create this new family, Dad had forgotten about the one he already had. I told him I wouldn't apologize unless Lena did too, for all the time she'd made me feel unwelcome in my own home. Dad left my room without resolving anything. Now the atmosphere at home is unbearable. Lena won't speak to me directly, only communicating through Dad or Zoe. Alex feels guilty and has been avoiding coming over, which only makes me feel more isolated. Zoe keeps trying to play peacemaker, telling me that Lena really does care about me, and that I should give her a chance. But Zoe doesn't understand. She's never had to adjust to a new parent, never had to feel like an outsider in her own family. I've been thinking a lot about Mom lately, wondering what she would say if she could see us now. Would she be disappointed in me for not trying harder with Lena, or would she understand why I'm finding it so difficult? I don't think I did anything wrong at the barbecue, but the silent treatment is getting to me. I miss the easy relationship I used to have with Dad, the fun times with Alex. I feel like I'm being punished for having a close relationship with my brother. And it's not fair. Part of me wants to just suck it up and apologize to keep the peace. But another part feels like if I do that, I'll be giving up a piece of myself, of the family I used to have. I'm torn between wanting things to go back to normal and realizing that maybe this is the new normal, and I'm the one who needs to change. Should I apologize to Lena? Should I try harder to fit into this new family dynamic? Or should I stand my ground and hope that eventually they'll understand my perspective? I feel lost and could really use some advice. Update 1. It's been about a month since the barbecue incident, and I wish I could say things have improved, but they've only gotten worse. I decided to stand my ground and not apologize to Lena, which has led to some major changes in our household. First off, Alex has stopped coming over altogether. He called me last week to explain that Lena had sent him a long text message, accusing him of undermining her authority and setting a bad example for me and Zoe. She apparently went into detail about how his immature behavior was hindering my development and causing discord in the family. Alex said he thought it was best to keep his distance for a while to let things cool down. I was furious that Lena had gone behind our backs to push Alex away, but he begged me not to confront her about it. He's always been the peacekeeper, even when we were kids, and I could hear the strain in his voice. This isn't the first time Lena has tried to come between us. I remember when I was 14 and Alex was heading off to college. Lena suggested that maybe it would be healthier for me if we didn't talk as much so I could develop my own identity. Dad shut that down quickly, but I never forgot it. Now it feels like she's finally got in her way. Dad has been trying to play mediator, but it's clear he's struggling. He pulled me aside after dinner one night and practically begged me to apologize to Lena, saying it would make everyone's lives easier. I told him I'd consider it if Lena apologized to me and Alex first, but he said that was unlikely to happen. I could see the conflict in his eyes. And for a moment, he looked so much like the lost, grieving man he was after Mom died. It made me wonder if his relationship with Lena was as solid as he claimed. The tension at home has been unbearable. Lena has started implementing new house rules that seem specifically designed to target me. For example, she set a curfew of 9 p.m. on weeknights and 10 p.m. on weekends, but only for me. Zoe doesn't have a curfew at all. When I pointed out the unfairness, Lena said it was because I had proven I couldn't be trusted to make good decisions. She's also started monitoring my phone usage and has threatened to take away my car privileges if I don't start showing more respect. Dad half-heartedly backed her up on this, which hurt more than I'd like to admit. It reminded me of all the times over the years when he'd side with Lena in small ways, each time chipping away at the close relationship we used to have. I've tried talking to Zoe about it, but she just tells me to apologize and stop making waves. I can't really blame her. She's never known any different. She was so young when our parents got married that this is just normal family life to her. Sometimes I envy her ability to just go with the flow, but then I remember all the good times with Mom and Alex, and I know I can't just pretend those memories don't matter. The final straw came last weekend when I overheard Lena and Dad arguing about me. Lena was saying that she thought it would be best if I went to live with my grandparents for a while to learn some discipline. She brought up how her own parents had sent her to live with an aunt during her rebellious phase and how it had straightened her out. Dad wasn't fully on board with the idea, but he wasn't exactly shutting it down either. Hearing that conversation brought back a flood of memories. When Mom was sick, there was talk of sending Alex and me to live with our grandparents so Dad could focus on her care. I remember how terrified I was at the thought of being separated from my parents during such a scary time. Alex was the one who convinced Dad to let us stay, promising to help out more around the house. Now, here was history repeating itself, but this time, Alex wasn't here to stand up for me. I'm scared and angry. I feel like I'm being pushed out of my own home just because I won't conform to Lena's idea of how a family should behave. The house is full of memories of Mom. Her favorite armchair is still in the living room. Her cookbooks are still in the kitchen. The thought of leaving all that behind feels like losing her all over again. I've started looking at old family photos from before Mom got sick. There's one of all four of us at the beach. Dad giving me a piggyback ride while Mom and Alex make silly faces at the camera. We all look so happy and carefree. I can't help but wonder what Mom would think of all this. Would she be disappointed in me for not trying harder with Lena? Or would she understand why I'm finding it so difficult? I'm seriously considering calling Alex and asking if I can move in with him, even though it would mean changing schools for my senior year. I don't want to leave Dad, but I can't shake the feeling that he's chosen Lena and her rules over me. Part of me hopes that if I threaten to leave, Dad will finally stand up to Lena and things will go back to normal. But another part of me is afraid that he'll just let me go. Am I overreacting? Should I just apologize and try to follow Lena's rules until I graduate? Or should I start making plans to get out of this house as soon as possible? I feel like I'm at a crossroads, and whatever decision I make will change my life forever. I could really use some advice on how to handle this situation. Update 2. Things have escalated dramatically since my last update. After much deliberation and encouragement from my best friend, I decided to have a heart-to-heart with Dad without Lena present. I asked him to meet me at the local park where he used to take Alex and me when we were kids. It felt like neutral ground away from the tension of the house. When we met, I laid everything out for him, how I felt pushed aside since he married Lena, how her rules seemed unfairly targeted at me, and how hurt I was that he wasn't standing up for me more. I even told him about overhearing the conversation about sending me to live with my grandparents. As I spoke, memories came flooding back. I told him about the time Lena threw away the macaroni art I had made with Mom when I was 6, claiming it was cluttering up the fridge. I reminded him of how she'd insisted on redecorating my room when she moved in, getting rid of the butterfly wallpaper Mom and I had picked out together. Each incident seemed small on its own, but together they painted a picture of how I'd felt erased from my own home over the years. Dad seemed shocked. He swore he had no intention of sending me away, and that Lena had only suggested it in the heat of an argument. He apologized for not being more supportive and promised to talk to Lena about easing up on the rules. For a moment, I felt like I had my old dad back, the one who used to be firmly in my corner. I felt relieved after our talk, but that feeling didn't last long. When we got home, we found Lena in a state. Apparently, she had gone through my room while we were out and found my diary. In it, I had written some pretty harsh things about her and Zoe, venting my frustrations over the past few years. Lena was livid. She accused me of being two-faced and ungrateful. She brought up every little thing I'd ever done wrong and threw it in my face. She talked about how hard she'd tried to be a good stepmom, how she'd given up her own dreams of having more kids to focus on raising me and Zoe. She said she'd always felt like an outsider in her own home because of my close relationship with Alex and Dad. Dad tried to calm her down, but she was on a roll. In the heat of the moment, Lena said something I'll never forget. She told Dad that he needed to choose between me and her because she couldn't live with someone who hated her so much. I was stunned. I looked at Dad, expecting him to shut this down immediately. Instead, he hesitated. That moment of hesitation felt like it lasted forever. In that pause, I saw flashes of my whole life, Mom's funeral, Dad's wedding to Lena, all the family dinners and holidays where I'd felt like a stranger in my own home. I didn't wait to hear his answer. I ran to my room, threw some clothes and essentials into a bag and called Alex. As I was packing, I grabbed the photo album Mom had made for me before she died. It was one of the few things of hers that Lena hadn't managed to declutter over the years. Alex came to pick me up within the hour. Dad tried to stop me from leaving, saying we could work this out, but I couldn't bear to look at him. As I was walking out the door, I heard Zoe crying, begging me not to go. It broke my heart, but I couldn't stay. I've been staying with Alex for the past week. He's been amazing, helping me figure out my options for finishing school and offering to let me stay with him long-term if needed. We've spent hours talking about Mom, reminiscing about old times, and sharing memories that Lena could never understand. I'm still processing everything that happened and trying to decide what to do next. Part of me feels guilty for leaving, especially when I think about Zoe. But another part feels relieved, like I can finally breathe again. Dad has been calling and texting nonstop, begging me to come home. He says he's sorry and that he chooses me, but I don't know if I can trust that anymore. Lena hasn't reached out at all, which speaks volumes. I'm torn between wanting to go back home and finish my senior year as planned and wanting to start fresh somewhere else. Alex says I can stay with him as long as I need, but I don't want to be a burden. Plus, I worry about what this might do to his relationship with Dad. What should I do? Should I give Dad another chance? Or is it time to accept that my family isn't what I thought it was and move on? I feel like I'm standing at a crossroads and I'm not sure which path to take. Update 3. It's been 2 months since I left home, and a lot has changed. After much soul-searching and long talks with Alex, I decided to stay with him and finish my senior year at a new school. It wasn't an easy decision, but I feel like it was the right one for me. Dad didn't take it well when I told him I wasn't coming back. He showed up at Alex's apartment unannounced one evening, alternating between anger and pleading. He accused Alex of turning me against him and threatened to cut off financial support for both of us. It was shocking to see Dad like that. He'd always been the calm, rational one in our family. Alex stood his ground and told Dad he needed to respect my decision. In the end, Dad left, but not before saying some pretty hurtful things. He said I was ungrateful and that I was throwing away everything he and Mom had worked for. That last part really stung. I spent days afterwards going through Mom's photo album, wondering if I was letting her down somehow. Lena sent me a long email a few weeks ago. It wasn't exactly an apology, more of a justification for her actions. She said she had only been trying to do what was best for the family and that she hoped one day I'd understand. She talked about how hard it had been for her to step into a ready-made family, always feeling like she was competing with a ghost. I could almost sympathize with her, but then she ended the email by saying she still thought I needed professional help to deal with my attachment issues to Alex. I didn't respond. Zoe has reached out a few times, mostly to tell me how much Dad is struggling without me. She says he's been drinking more and arguing with Lena constantly. I know she means well, but it feels manipulative, like she's trying to guilt me into coming back. I've been keeping my responses brief and to the point. I miss Zoe, but I need to maintain some boundaries right now. On a positive note, I'm settling into my new school pretty well. It was tough at first being the new kid in senior year, but I've made a few friends. There's a girl in my English class, Mia, who lost her dad a few years ago. We've bonded over our shared experiences of grief and blended families. It's nice to have someone who really understands. My grades are good, and I'm even thinking about college applications. Alex has been helping me research schools and scholarships. It's exciting to think about the future and all the possibilities ahead of me. Alex has been incredible through all of this. He's helped me set up a part-time job at a local bookstore to cover my expenses, and he's been teaching me how to budget and manage my own finances. It's not always easy, but I feel like I'm growing up fast. We've had some great talks about Mom, sharing memories and stories. It's bittersweet, but it feels like we're honoring her memory in a way we couldn't when we were living with Lena. I still miss Dad sometimes, especially when I think about graduation coming up. I always imagined him being there, cheering me on, but then I remember how he hesitated when Lena gave him that ultimatum, and I know I made the right choice. I need to prioritize my own well-being. Last week, I ran into my aunt, Mom's sister, at the grocery store. She hugged me tightly and said she was proud of me for standing up for myself. She invited me over for dinner, saying she had some of Mom's old things she wanted to give me. It was a reminder that even though I've left my immediate family, I still have people who care about me. I'm not sure what the future holds. Part of me hopes that someday Dad will realize how much damage Lena has done to our relationship and make some changes. But I'm not holding my breath. For now, I'm focused on finishing school strong and planning for college. I'm proud of myself for standing up for what I believe in, even though it was the hardest thing I've ever done. I've learned that sometimes family isn't about blood or legal ties, but about the people who support you and make you feel valued. To those who supported me through this journey, thank you. Your advice and encouragement helped me more than you know. And to anyone else going through something similar, remember that you have the right to be treated with respect and love in your own home. Don't be afraid to make tough choices for your own well-being.